Hey everyone, Kaylee here with Needle Felted Fuzzies, and I wanted to quickly go over the actual needles that I use for needle felting, and just kind of show you the different tools that I use most of the time. So I have my foam board, my foam set up here, and I have a couple of needles to show you. And let me just take this apart real quick. So the needles for needle felting look like this, and let me see how close I can get to the camera. So if you see the end of the needle, there's a good shot. This is a 36 gauge triangle needle, and what that means is this end here is actually shaped like a triangle. So it's got three sides, and where each of the sides meet, you can see that some little cuts have been made into those points. So if you look at it from the very tip, you can see that it's triangular shape, and the 36 gauge is how thick it is. The smaller the number, the bigger the thickness. So a 36 gauge triangle needle is 36 gauge triangle shape. If you go up to a 40 gauge needle, it would be a thinner needle. And if you go to like a 32, it would be a bigger needle. They have needles in all kinds of different sizes and shapes. I mostly, 99% of the time, use 36 gauge triangle needles. This one is a 32 gauge triangle needle, so it is thicker. And you can see how much easier it is to see that, probably. But you can see the little cuts into each of the sides, each of the points of the sides of the triangle. And these little grooves are what actually take the fibers and hook them together. And that's what makes the wool go from very fuzzy to a dense wool into the shape that you want. This is called a pen tool. It actually holds up to 3 needles. And the way that you load it is by unscrewing this part here, and then you take a regular needle and you put it right down into the hole, and it comes out the other side, and this one holds up to 3. I usually see other needle felters and myself use it with 2. If you do 3, it tends to make a bigger surface area, and it's a little bit harder to use. So then you screw this part back on here, and if you're doing a lot of needle felting like I do, it's so much easier to use a tool like this than to try to just use the needle. This does get bothersome after a while, and we're talking hours. The other night I spent 6 hours working on a project. I did take a break in between to feed my baby, but it got a little hectic, so of course I used my multi-tool holder. Now there are other holders that hold up to 8 needles. I tend to just use this for what I'm working on. This needle actually came with this holder. It came in a kit that I got a while ago, and because it's a different size needle, I like to leave this on, and it just reminds me which needle is which. So there's that. And then the single needle holder looks like this. And this is what you'll probably start at. So what I did when I first started was, of course, use just the regular needle. And then as I got more into this craft, I got the single needle holder. And then as I learned more about the craft and I started doing even more, I got the pen tool. And then I just recently actually got the 8 needle holder. I don't have a punch tool, which is also another thing that looks kind of like this but holds up to I think 12 different needles. That's for people who are making like larger, flatter things. I find that the 3D pieces, you need to have just 1 or 2 needles, especially if you're working on just a smaller area, because having a big punch tool really pushes the wool into the pad and it makes it really flat, and it's harder to get a whole bunch of needles into a piece than a single needle. So the single pen tool, you actually put together, and it's kind of a weird way. So this is like a cork stopper. One side's a little bit bigger than the other, and that is the side that holds the top of the L shape of the needle. So I do that, and then I put this, actually I did it the wrong way. So this part is like a cork and it goes into this part. So the smaller part is where you put the L, and then the whole thing goes into the bottom of the pen tool, and you just push that up as far as it'll go, and then boom, you have your needle. So I hope that was interesting and helpful. If you have any questions, of course, let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.